Hey, everybody. Happy Friday night. I hope that you are sitting at home, drinks in hand, maybe betting on races, maybe waiting for dinner from your significant other like I am. Whatever it is, we're so glad that you're here to join us. I have an awesome group of guests because we are covering an event that we have never covered before and really kind of a sport we've never covered before, which I'm excited to learn about and introduce. But let's start with introductions here. To my side, I have Steve Coxon, who you can find on Twitter at USA Steeplechase. He is an analyst. He is a fan. He is an influencer, as he says with his that was a terrible version of your accent. I can see it in your face. Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm good. That's the wrong part of England. I'm from
I know, I did. I went very
I'm actually also an owner, so I've got what?
And an owner.
10 horses carrying some shape of form.
10 horses with Keri.
Yeah.
Well, then let's introduce Keri down there. So Keri Brion down here, she is an Eclipse winning trainer. And so far that I've known, an awesome person. Keri, thanks so much for popping on here. How are you doing tonight?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, good. Getting ready for the hurricane.
I was just going to say, the storm is starting to come through. So are you close to Fair Hill?
Sorry?
Are you close to Fair Hill? Is that where you're based?
I'm about 20 minutes from Fair Hill, so be fun driving.
If you haven't been to Fair Hill is gorgeous. I was there for the Grand Motion team a couple years ago, and I'm a huge fan of the whole area. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great place to be.
So, and then last but certainly not least, and the one that really should be announcing this entire live stream is a track announcer, Craig Braddock. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Brian. Thank you for having me on, and great to meet up with Stephen and Keri once again to renew our acquaintance.
I won't try to replicate your accent because I've already butchered one. So, but as we're all, I had nice weather today, and I think Steve does. But this one is 103 degrees in Arizona. Is that what you said?
It is right here in Phoenix, Arizona. But I'm looking forward to coming out east tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. flight out of Phoenix to Chicago and then on to Washington, D.C., where, I gather it will be the kind of weather even Noah would have thought twice about before venturing out into. And, I'm looking forward to getting very wet indeed on Sunday as the heavens pour down upon us at Foxfield.
Yes, galoshes will be needed in canoes, but one of the things that I have learned about in the short amount of time that I'm starting to learn about steeplechase racing is they run rain or shine. It doesn't matter if it is muddy. Some of the horses love the turf muddy. Do you call it turf or do you call it grass? Is it the same lingo?
Yeah, you can use the same kind of terminology for it, yeah.
Okay, so they're definitely running on Sunday, but we're excited to talk about some of the key differences of steeplechase versus flat racing, which is what Stable Duel has in the app at this point in time. But again, we're going rogue on Sunday. We're bringing Steeple Duel to Stable Duel. So, Steve, give me some of the key differences from flat racing to steeplechase.
Sure. Probably the biggest difference, obvious difference, steeplechasing is they're going to be jumping over obstacles. Depending upon the type of meet, it's either a hurdle, what we call a hurdle, which is a smaller, like a brush fence that they jump over, or they also jump over timber fences, which are wooden rails. And if you hit a timber fence, you don't brush through it. You go, I don't know, can I swear over here? But you go over, let's put it that way. And then obviously the next difference is the distances. So you're running a minimum of 2 miles. In the UK, 2 miles is just getting going. They run a race 4 miles, two furlongs, jumping 30 fences. So obstacles, distance is probably the biggest the two differences. And then the start, you're going to see a different start. No starting stalls. And Keri will attest to this. It's always fun and games at the start. It's done by a flag. So they're going to try and get these horses all lined up at the same time. I've got 13, 14 horses they're trying to line up. Flag goes down and the horses take off. 3, 4 false starts we were seeing at Saratoga, Keri, in a row.
Easily. Yeah. No. Yeah. Saratoga is a bit different because of the pari-mutuel wagering. They want us to be lined up in exact numerical order. that is a hard thing to do
Yeah.
on a really tight racetrack. The hunt meets, they do a more European start where kind of the horses that want to move forward and be handy, they let them move forward. And the ones that don't want to be, they want to be farther out the back, they're allowed to just kind of walk in behind. But yeah, the parimutuel wagering at Saratoga caused, they want us to be in numerical order and lined up perfectly. And like, they're 1,200-pound animals. It's not that easy.
Calls for chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, so there is a Saratoga book. I'll have to share it on Twitter that goes through the history of Saratoga. And this is how flat racing, I think, or maybe it's steeplechase racing, but started way, way back in the day. That's how Saratoga started. Same thing with no starting gates. It was miles race-wise. They would go over a few days too. They would do, like 2 miles this day. The next day, the same horses would come back and do another 2. So it almost sounds like we're going back to the origins of flat racing a little bit with what steeplechase racing currently is.
Yeah, and
So,
starting stalls, starting gates, as you say in America, really only came into fashion in the mid-1930s. They started in Australia in the late 20s. And then in the UK, stalls or starting gates were only used from 1966 onwards. So it's been a gradual improvement. I think on the continent of Europe, France maybe started it in the early 60s. I think Ireland as well started it before Great Britain did in the early 1960s. But yes, you're right. This was the original way flat races were started. And if you ever go back and listen to old race calls of racing from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you often hear the commentator saying they're passing the mile and a quarter gate. And what they mean by that is in those days, there was literally a gate that used to just bounce up into the air and the horses would just trot forward and begin running from there. So, yeah, it really is a throwback to how things used to be.
Yeah, and racing fans, I think the one thing you can kind of put this to is almost like the Seabiscuit race where they started without a starting gate with a bell, but there's no bell for you all. It's kind of like Formula One with the flag. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's going to be exciting to see on Sunday.
Absolutely, yeah. And although Formula One hasn't been started with a flag for many years now, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same principle. Well,
what I meant.
Yeah. I think Jackie Stewart was racing when they last started a Formula One race by a flag. But what will happen is the horses will get down to the start. And they'll have a last-minute check, make sure the breast girths and all the tack is in place. That's vitally important for a jumps rider down at the start when he's let the horse just gallop down to the start. They'll make sure everything is good to go. Then the starter will call them in. He'll stand 25, 30 yards in front. He'll raise the flag. When they raise the flag, they're under starter's orders. He will instruct them to come forward. And when he's happy, he'll drop the flag, quickly run out the way before he gets trodden on by the horses, and they're off. What you will see tomorrow is you may see 1 or 2 horses purposefully just ease at the start and kind of just trot and walk into it very slowly. And don't be concerned about that. That's all part of the tactics of jump racing, not necessarily having to go on the front end early.
So what are some other differences in tactics that you see in jump racing versus flat racing, either by the jocks or, instructed? What are some different tactics that you see over 2 miles, which is a long time, versus, you have a minute and a half from start to finish? And what differences do you see in the riding tactics or anything?
Stephen, you want to have a crack at that first?
Say it again.
Yeah, I think he was asking if I wanted to have a crack at that. Is that what you said,
Yeah.
Craig? Yeah. Obviously, it's similar in the fact that you're going to get front runners. So Keri has a wonderful horse. The name escapes me, Keri. Who's the one that darts off Paul's horse? Roulette, yeah. So this horse is probably a fence ahead of everybody else from the gate. And it's catch me if you can. So he's flying and everyone else is just jogging out at the back. And then you'll get some races where there's just no pace on, just like on the flat. So they're all in a group, and then it becomes, a sprint after the last fence. So It's similar in the flat. It just takes a lot longer. So it's probably a little more tactical in that fact, because but then you're dealing with fences. So if you clip the top of a fence and it takes you out your momentum, you've got to try to get back in the race. So, so there's various factors, but it's similar to the flat in that you're going to have front runners, you're going to have early pace sorts, and then you're going to have the ones that pick up the pace at the end.
So if you can imagine, a jumps race is rather like a 3-act play. There's a beginning, an inciting incident, a first act, second act, third act, climax of the play, and eventually a resolution. And it's exactly the same in jumps racing. Take any field of, say, 10 or 12 horses in a jumps race. There's going to be some horses who like to be on the pace early. There's going to be some horses that like to lay off a pace early. What we're going to see this weekend at Foxfield, especially with the very soft ground expected, is I would imagine early on they're not going to try and force a pace early in many of the races. You may get 1 or 2 horses who try to outrun the others, but considering what the weather conditions are going to be, those could be very dodgy tactics indeed. But you will see a lot of jockeys in the early part of the race just allow the horses to fiddle the early fences, allow the horse to get in a little bit close to the jump if it wants to, not dangerously so, but enough so that the horse can feel the fence underneath its belly a little bit and say, oh, I don't want to do that too much here. And then the jockey will begin asking him a little bit more, asking her to just, quicken up into a fence a little bit, begin seeing a good stride. And one of the things I'll point out to you in the race calls on Sunday is the better jockeys, the more experienced jockeys, as soon as they hit the deck with a horse on landing, they will set themselves and set the horse up immediately for the next fence. Whereas you'll see some of the lesser experienced jockeys take a few strides to get the horse back in position, get themselves in position, and get that rhythm going again. Rather like in track and field steeplechasing. If you ever jumped hurdles in track and field, you know that there's a rhythmic beat. You're going to take 8 steps between each hurdle, or however many it is that matches your stride. It's very similar in jumps racing as well. Of course, in jumps racing, and Foxfield is a good example, we're not talking about an oval track here. This track is kind of a rounded off triangle shape, and they'll start each race over 2 miles and 1 furlong. They'll start it in front of the enclosures. They'll run up by the winning line. There's one fence there. Then they turn left-handed. They head down the hill away from the enclosures. Quite a long run until they come to 2 fences in very quick sequence. Then they turn left-handed, go down, if you like, the back stretch of the course around the lake. Quite a long run there to the lowest part of the course, but I imagine it's going to be a part that takes up a lot of water as the weekend goes on. And then they camber uphill again before jumping another fence, and then they turn into the home straight and they jump a fence again. And then when they've done that, they've got to go around once again. So the tactics will be very different, and a lot of it will be dependent on the track conditions on the day.
Okay. That's interesting. So how many is it like flat racing where you'll have some people going bonkers thinking that they're crossing the finish line even though they've got one more to go?
No, our guys know how far to go.
Yeah.
No, our guys know how
Y'all
far
are
to go.
smart.
Yeah.
Y'all are way smarter than some of our group.
And it should be said
Keri,
as well.
yeah.
Sorry, Keri. It should be said as well, fractional times in steeplechasing aren't really significant compared to final times. And
the times, being honest, the times mean nothing. If you go back and look at half of our races, the maiden claimers will actually go faster than some of the maidens, and even some of the stakes sometimes. The time just doesn't matter in jump racing. It's just different. The maiden claimers might set off at a tearing pace, but they come home so slow. I don't ever pay attention to times. Whenever my owners are like, well, this horse ran this time and, that horse ran that time. So clearly that it means nothing. It really means nothing. And the tracks are so different. Some go up and down hills. Some are flat. It just is not important. So I would not, if you're looking at prior races and trying to look at times, I would take no account at all into the times.
That's good advice for stable dual players for sure. Dennis had a good comment. He said, it's like playing chess and the flat races is checkers, in my opinion. Flat races are too quick to get a real strategy versus 2 miles where you get a rhythm. So, and yeah, Keri, what's it like to train? And congratulations, you won a flat race, I think a week ago as well.
That's
so
right.
You're both a flat race trainer and a steeplechase trainer. What's it like training steeplechase horses versus the flat thoroughbreds?
Well, for me, I mean, I think every trainer does it differently, but for me, it's not much different, to be honest with you. It has turned into I mainly train hurdle horses. I might have 1 or 2 timber horses at a time, but I mainly train hurdle horses. For my business model, that's where the more money is, and it just makes more sense for me to do it that way. So I mainly train hurdle horses, and honestly, I don't train them that much different than the flat horses. They will have a day or 2 a week where they might have a longer gallop, a 2-mile gallop, or we go out back at Fair Hill and gallop up a couple big hills. But so do my flat horses. And like for the most part, when we work them, like obviously the jumpers might work a little bit farther. They might go 7/8 or 3/4 or 7/8 on the Tapeta, and they might start off a hair slower than what the flat horses will start off in if you're timing them. But I really don't train them that much differently because hurdle racing has become a lot quicker. And they do have to have some speed, especially at the racetracks. Like coming back from Saratoga, I mean, I worked all those horses like they were flat horses because taking out the last fence, literally they have a 5/8 of a mile run into the wire. So they better have some speed to be competitive. So I don't train them that much differently. Now getting ready for the jump races, we've done a lot more. The hunt meets this fall. We've done a lot more hills out back and whatnot, but it is amazingly not that much different. And you'll see I have a couple horses on the day for Jordan Wyckoff. And this is a new project where we've been taking good flat horses with good flat form off the flat that we're going to jump, but we're also going to run them on the flat as well. And I think it should be an eye-opener that although there's a lot of differences, there's a lot of similarities. And there's no reason why jumpers can't run on the flat and run over jumps and go back and forth. Jonathan Shepard, who I worked for 11 years, did it a lot. You don't see it quite as much anymore, but I think that's only because there's not as many dual purpose jump trainers. Jack Fisher, Sean McDermott, though they do run both. Sean has done a great job this year of actually doing that with horses running on the flat successfully and then taking them over jumps. It's a great angle, and it's something that, I hope more owners will pay notice to. They can do both. It's really not that different other than the obstacles.
And there's definitely an argument that even if a horse doesn't like flat racing, maybe it would love the jump races, so.
Sure. And it sometimes will spark interest in a horse that might have had good form back in the day. And, they've kind of lost their form or lost their way on the flat. And, you start jumping them and it gives them a new lease on life. And, they turn into, they get their flat form back just doing the jumping, or, they turn into a really good steeplechase horse. So it's definitely an angle for a lot of different reasons to take a horse to and try it out.
So someone is asking why here in the States is there never a 6 furlong, 7 furlong, or 1 mile sprint steeplechase race? Why are they always kind of marathons is what we would call them? Why are they always much longer?
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't, like, if you think about it. So to go just say a mile or 7/8, I mean, 1, how many jumps would that be? Not many. And 2, we go too fast in Saratoga, in my opinion, as they've taken out fences. And the faster you go, the more dangerous it actually is. Mm-hmm. And like my argument is there should be more fences. I mean, I totally understand why they've taken the last fence out in Saratoga. They, God forbid, a horse catastrophically fall at the last. But there's 2 sides to that story. And the other side is more jumps make them go slower. So if you're going a mile, they're going to be flat out. And you don't want to jump a hurdle, going that speed. That it's almost impossible. It would just be catastrophic, basically, is what it would be. So 2 miles is the shortest we go. And as I think Steve said earlier, like, to be honest, that's short in comparison to the rest of the world. Most of our hurdle races are 2, to 2.25. They don't really go. There's a few obviously that are farther, but for the most part, that would be the average distance. And that's actually short compared to the rest of the world.
Okay, well, good. Interesting points, and love the answers. So there are a couple horses. Well, you've got 10 horses in on Sunday. Is that right, Keri?
11, I think.
What did you say? 11. Well, there's a couple that we wanted to talk about here. Let's bring up one of them. And I love the names. LJ here is one of the horses that you referenced. What do we love about LJ?
What we love about LJ is he won a stake. He's run 3 times. He's had a little bit of bad luck, but his one win came in the Gold Cup, which was absolute bottomless ground. He beat a very good horse. The horse that he beat went on to be 3rd in Saratoga, has won 2 races since then. And he just loved the soft ground. And if you look at him, he has massive feet and loves the soft ground. So on the day with the weather forecast, I think he is definitely one. I think he was like 10-1 on the odds morning line. So I think he's a big player to keep an eye out for, knowing how much he loves soft ground.
Tell us about the jockey.
Just going to say that, Craig.
Tell us about the jockey, Keri.
Jockey is my assistant's brother. He has been, he's been riding races all spring. He rode a bit. I think he was 3rd at the Manor, which, like, riding over timber is way scarier than riding over hurdles, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
He rides out. He's in school in University of Kentucky, which is where Tatiana also went to school, and he rides out at Margot Farm right now. But he's been flying home on the weekends, and he's had a couple rides for some different people. And Teddy Davies helps me out a lot, but I hadn't planned to run this horse in this race. He was vet scratched last weekend. He's all good, so he's running back this week and needed a rider. And Tatiana obviously works very hard for me, and they're a great family. And Teddy's a great kid, so I'm looking forward to hopefully giving him his first winner.
That's awesome. Very exciting. For Stable Duel players, or for anybody that is new to Stable Duel, so this is a horse detail screen. I will fully admit here that, so up here where it says starts 1st and 2nd and 3rd, for some reason that's not generating this horse, but you can see, as Keri referenced down here, the last 5 races, this horse has run 3 times and won its 2nd time out. Something that is different from the flat racing, if you are Stable Duel players, you can see how many lengths the horse was beaten by, and it's showing here 100 lengths. Don't worry about that from what I understand about steeplechasing, but also don't worry about that in the app either. We're going to cap all of them at -30. So the most points against you can get is 30. So you just want to pick horses that, hopefully finish in the top 5 is kind of your goal here. And this horse is $1,000 in the shortest field. So race 5, LJ is costing you $1,000 in your stable. And it sounds like it would be a fun horse to follow regardless, but feel free to add LJ into your stable if you like. And then we'll go to Jimmy P. I love these names. Jimmy P, the number 9 horse, and this is in race 4. What do we like about Jimmy P, Keri?
So this is one of Madakit's stables, first jumpers. Saul owns him with Paul and Molly Willis. He ran first time out for me, was very impressive at Colonial, finished 2nd. Ran back, was 4th in his 2nd start over jumps, but 4th in a very, very hot race that actually went slow early, turned into a sprint, and literally the first 3 horses ahead of him were all with literally graded stakes form on the flat, and he's about an allowance horse on the flat. So he ran to his form, but I think the hunt meets, he's only run at Colonial over jumps, which is no last fence, long sprint home. I think he's actually made for this long stamina type track. He jumps for fun, touch wood. He's everything. I think to me, if you pick a horse out in the barn, what do you look for in a jumper? He's that. The owners have let me take my time with him. We could have run him again before now, but we didn't. We waited. I picked out this track for him. I don't know what he's going to think of the ground, but to be honest, I don't think he'll care. He's just a hard trying little horse, and he's genuine, and he shows up every time. And really, that's what you need in ground like this, because a lot of these horses have never experienced anything like it. And you just need a genuine horse that's going to keep trying for you. The races are going to go slow. it's going to be hard for them. But if you have a genuine horse that just wants to try, you're that much farther ahead, and that's him. So I'm really excited to send him out, and I think he'll run really well. He should be right there.
Keri, question for you.
Yes.
What, on the flat, they say yielding. What would
yield?
So
that's soft for
that's
here.
Soft.
That's soft. Yeah. And knowing our turf racing in America, if it's yielding, it's probably pretty soft because they normally just take us off the grass. So if it's yielding turf, it's probably actually pretty soft turf.
Because he ran well twice, I think, on the yielding turf.
Yeah, he just I just don't think he's the type to care about ground. The one thing that's different to our soft ground, even as heavy as it's going to be on Sunday, compared to Ireland or England, is there's always a bottom in our ground. So even though it's going to be heavy, it's not bottomless. So it just is hard for them is all, but it's not that it's necessarily, impossible. It's just, as I said, a genuine horse goes a long way.
So Jimmy P is going to cost $7,000. So, I mean, not a value pick, but it's not a $9,000, $10,000. So still some value to be had there. And you heard Keri's analysis of him, and it sounds like he's a heart horse, which is always a good thing. So, well, good luck to both of these. We'll take these down. And I think we're going to go race by race to get you all prepped and ready for Sunday. Again, Sunday is Foxfield, and that is our first steeplechase event in the Stable Duel app. It's in Charlottesville, Virginia. It's going to be a little wet, which means a lot of wet, but that's not going to stop these horses from running and jumping, and it's going to be a very, very exciting day. We have a free-to-play $2,500 contest in the Stable Duel app. You have one entry to try to cash some of this $2,500. And there are 6 races, and thankfully, Steve over here has done an analysis on a website called usasteeplechase.com. I will share the link in the comments for anyone who is on YouTube right now, or we'll share it up on Twitter, but you can also follow him on Twitter right there with his handle and find his website as well. Steve, is it worth bringing up the website, or should you guys just want to talk about each race quickly?
I have all my notes here, so I'm good. So if they want to just visit the website, it has every race broken down. The best I could do. 95% of these horses are run on firm ground in the summer, and now we're going to bring them out in this heavy going on a hunt meet. So good luck. That's all I can say.
Well, we've got 6 races on the day, and one of the other cool things about this is every single race except for one that LJ was just in is 10 horses or more. So you have 10 horses or more to choose in. So you are doubling up in the Stable Duel app in a bunch of these races, but you have plenty of horses to choose from. And so why don't we just start with race 1? So race 1 is a maiden claiming hurdle. Again, 2 miles. All of these are 2 miles except for one race that we'll get into that one. And Steve, what's a couple of horses that you want to touch on in this one?
Yeah. So who wants to listen to Steve Coxon's picks? That's my question. So what I did, being the influencer that I am, I contacted 5 of the top jockeys that are running on Sunday. So I've got the inside scoop rather than just So the first guy up is Jamie Bargery, Irish guy. The guy is absolutely on fire. Since August the 18th, he's run in 17 races. He's won 8 of them. He's won stakes races at Saratoga. He beat the Mean Queen. Dare I say that, Keri? She's not happy. Jamie's basically riding out of his skin. 52% since August the 18th. He's got a horse in there called Thoman Park. It is a $1,000 purchase on Stable Duel. He's riding for Ricky Hendricks. He's 100% for Ricky. He thinks the horse has got a lot of ability. Will handle the going. He thinks it's definitely got a chance. So Jamie Bargery's on fire. I would not go against Jamie.
Ricky's on fire as well.
Who is that?
Ricky's on fire as well. So that's a good combo.
Absolutely. And then the other guy, Tom Garner, who's one of the top jocks. He's riding a Leslie Young horse called 21 Guns. Tom said he's a little horse that's just trying to figure it out. He'll improve. He just doesn't know whether he's going to handle the soft ground. The only problem for that horse is an $8,000 horse because it's a 3-to-1 morning line. So there's the inside scoop from the two jocks. Craig.
Well, first of all, this race is actually 2 miles and 1 furlong, not two miles. All the jumps races will be 2 miles and 1 furlong. They'll be jumping 10 fences. I actually like Bowman Park enough, and I have high regard for Jamie Bargery as well as a jockey. That being said, I'm going to go for Jack Fisher's number 2 ping pong champ with Connor Henkin on board. This horse was third in a $15,000 claimer at Malvern. Back in May, the horses had a layoff over the summer. That should augur well. Jack Fisher doesn't bring horses out to the track too soon if they've been off for a little while. Looking further back into its form, it perhaps hasn't always performed best on soft going. That is a little bit of a concern. But number 3, Quality Choice, Graham Waters on board. That one, this horse has been running at Colonial over the summer. Just because of my schedule, I wasn't able to see many of the Colonial races this summer because I was calling races in California. But Quality Choice would appear to be reasonable. I'm not sure I would put it at 5-2 on the morning line, though. When I was pricing this one up, I had it more at around 5 or 6-1. And then the number 9, Paul Rank with Bernie Dalton on board. What is for certain is there's no more experienced jockey out there than Bernie Dalton, and you're going to need every ounce of experience you can get on Sunday with the weather conditions we're having. So 2-3-1 for me in the opener.
Perfect. All right, well, let's go. Keri, anything you want to talk about in race 1?
I have one in there. I wouldn't pick her where it's an experiment. But my pick goes to Bernie and Kate Dalton, Pool Rank. One, it is the son of Cat Feathers, who was a amazing mare over hurdles. They bred him themselves. He's just figuring it out. He's beaten half these horses in this field already. He was 4th, just got out kicked because there's no last fence at Colonial Downs. But if you look at his form, and he's progressive, and Bernie and Kate are fabulous, I think he's the one to beat.
And I did speak to Bernie about a month ago.
All right, well,
Pull Rank was the one horse that Bernie mentioned when I spoke to him a month ago.
I think they like him. He's a really cool little horse anyway, but on form, I think he's progressed. The rest are all pretty exposed. You kind of know what you got. He's been progressive both races at Colonial Downs, and I think he wins if he handles the ground.
It's gonna be the question for many of them.
So
race 2 is a 3-year-old and up training flat race. This is the one race that is not 2 miles and a furlong. It is 1.25 miles. Keri, why is that? What is a training flat race? There's no jumps in this one. Why?
They are just used as prep races. There's no money. Sometimes they're sponsored. You might get $500 to the winning owner and trainer, but these are just a little bit longer trips. You know, some of these horses come from overseas and they've never been in a starting gate or whatever. They're not quick enough to be flat horses, some of them. So that's why we don't always have the option to just run them on the flat for a prep. So most of the time, if you see these races, there's horses in there prepping for other things. Sometimes it's experience. For me, I have 2 really nice horses. One's currently on the AE. I'm hoping he draws in. The other one's in. They're both prepping for bigger things. They're both prepping for Far Hills, which is our biggest day, of the fall. So that's normally what these races are. Sometimes it's just taking young horses out for the day, getting them to learn what it's all about. It's a work. But yeah, it's a fitness builder and, training flat race, literally.
Got it. All right. Well, why don't we talk about this one? Steve, what are some of your strong opinions in this one?
What's my jockey opinions? So the first, I talked to Barry Foley, who's riding on Nathaniel Hawthorne, which is an English horse. He actually won on the soft going in a $57,000 handicap in England. And if it's soft in England, it is soft in England. Barry just mentioned that he's on a fact-finding mission. Like, it's a training race. Everyone's on a fact-finding mission, essentially. And then I'm a part owner on Keri's Agitator that's on the AE list. This horse is won on soft ground. It was a group horse in Ireland, correct, Keri? Ran in group races. So this is a flat race. it could be set up for Agitator if he gets in, but obviously he's on the AE. We're just hoping that a couple of them scratch because the ground becomes too soft. But if he does get in, obviously his form on the flat is excellent and he can handle the soft going. But I'll let Keri speak more about that one. So that's the 2 findings I have on that race.
Craig, do you want to go next?
Sure. And we spoke a little earlier about Keri's horse, LJ. And there's a couple of form lines. When we go back to race number 1, with number 2, Ping Pong Champ, 2 starts back was 7th in absolutely terrible conditions at the Virginia Gold Cup in a race that LJ won. And when you look at race number 2, the number 11, Parish Delight, was an early leader in that particular race, eventually found the going too tough. I mean, it was an absolutely terrible day weather-wise.
He didn't actually. If you watch the replay, he ran off with Parker. He would have loved that ground if he didn't run off with Parker.
Is that so? Well, that's
loved it too much. Yeah, he loved it too much.
Well, I mean, that's great because Paris Delight is going to be my top pick here, Keri.
He loves it soft.
Okay. So, I consulted the Magic Lantern on that one and came up with Paris Delight. My second pick here is going to be the number 5, Eagerly. A little disappointing at Delaware Park last time out in a 28,000 allowance optional claimer. Should be facing easier competition today, or on Sunday, I should say. One would imagine. It's good to see Tom Garner in the saddle for that. And the number 1, High Def, with Gerard Gallagher on board. This horse was 5th at what used to be called Indiana Grand. It is now called Horseshoe Indianapolis. Last time out, 1 mile was a trip that time on the turf, a 30,000 claimer, beaten 7 lengths. But looking at the replay of that race, the horse came 5 or 6 wide into the home stretch on that occasion. I don't think it will have that problem today. And always good to see Kathy Nielsen have some runners. So I'm going to go 11-5-1 in race 2.
Keri, anything to add?
I hope there's a scratch or 2, so Agitary runs. We'll see. I think there will be some scratches depending on what the going's like or whatnot. Once again, mine are just prepping, but yeah, like form on the day and class of the race, like Agitary, if he draws in, I mean, he's better than everything in here. Parish Delight, I love him. He's prepping for the maiden at Far Hills. He's been second to a lot of very good horses this spring. He had a minor setback, not soundness related, this summer, so that's why he didn't run this summer. But he's in great order. So looking forward to getting these two out there.
Seems like it's going to be an exciting race. Oops. So race 3 is for 3-year-olds up.
Something's going on there on my phone. It'll turn off in a second. I apologize.
That's okay. I feel like we should pop up the FaceTime right here and just whoever it is.
That's me, Craig.
It's a bloody girlfriend. It really is. Go away. Leave me and the dogs alone.
This is why are you so obsessed with moments? Oh.
Wow, she's very persistent at times.
You know that? She's persistent.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go to race 3. So race 3 is for 3-year-olds and up. Back to the 2 miles and 1 furlongs. This is for maiden, fillies, and mare hurdles. So we do have 11 horses, but 11 AE is the 11th horse is an AE. So 10 currently entered here with 1 potential. And I will bring up the screen right here. Steve, what are your jockeys saying for this one?
My jockeys. So we've got an outsider here. I talked to Tom Garner, who's riding Leslie Young's Fussie de Pouche. It's an Irish bred. Tom mentioned that she's a small filly, and she ran at Colonial Downs in the summer on the firm going. She didn't jump very well. Jamie Bargery was riding that day. He actually pulled her up because he just wanted to take care of her. They've spent a long time schooling her since then. She's jumping much better. She's a real bargain at 15-1, and Tom Life thinks she's got a real chance. So she's a $500 purchase on Stable Duel.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I wanted to get that up there.
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest outsiders that I've got here. And then obviously we've got Keri's horses. We've got Parker, who likes Magical Charm, the 3 horse, but he's a $7,000 horse. And then Keri's got the 9 and the 11. She's dominating this race here. Ocean Air and Solid. But take a look at their Fussy de Push, if that's how you pronounce it, at 15-1.
Craig, you're going to have to practice that name so that you get that
Yeah,
out.
how do you pronounce that one, Craig? You're the
I
master.
would say that is Fussy de Poche.
Okay.
Steve, you ruined it. You just ruined it.
I'll send Leslie a text message. I'm sure she knows the name.
All right, Craig, who do you like in this one?
In the third, I like the 6 over the 7 over the 2. The number 6, Can You Do the Twist? Jack Gilligan on board. Not a jockey I'm overly familiar with, but Can You Do the Twist was a good second in a $100,000 race at Colonial in late August. Then went back to the flat and didn't really fire on all cylinders there. That form, if it holds up from 2 starts back, I can see this horse being on the lead early, certainly in the top 3 and probably making a move in the final half mile. But number 7, Met in Miami with Bernie Dalton on board. Well, this horse was a winner at Laurel on the turf over 1.25 miles last time out in a $20,000 claimer. Met in Miami, a young horse, more seasoned jockey, let's say, could be good value, 10-1 on the morning line. I'm not sure how much it is on Speed Jewel right now. Stable Jewel, Speed Jewel. What the heck am I thinking about? I remember number 2,
okay,
Our
you know what you meant.
You know what I meant. I remember number 2, Our Sweet Pea, who I don't know if we have a jockey for Our Sweet Pea yet. When my PPs printed out that they weren't available, but this horse was second at Delaware over 7.5 furlongs last time.
So the number 2, Our Sweet Pea, is a huge value play as well for $500. Your 6 horse that you have leading is 9,200, coming in at 9-5 morning line. And then the 7 horse here, Met in Miami, is 10-1, which makes it $1,000 in stable duel. So
yeah,
some good value.
I think there's some good value there. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Keri, what about yours? The Ocean Air and your AE. What are you thinking about yours?
Well, this will be the trickiest race for everybody because mares are opinionated, and the ones that don't like the soft, they are not going to run a lick, and you're not going to make them. So it's going to be interesting. On firm ground, I would have loved Magical Charm. I don't know on the soft. I don't actually know. Hard to say. She's really tough, but you just never know. If she doesn't like something, she's not going to do it. The other 2 are by far the class in this race on flat form. I mean, if you pull them up, they've been running in New York. They are proper horses. But we are really just giving them runs to prep them for the race at Aiken. Their owner's father-in-law runs Aiken. So they're really out for the experience. Ocean Air, it has won over yielding turf. She's a big, strong, beautiful filly. We're not really out to try to win the race, but she may just do it without us trying. I think she's the real deal, and I think you will know her name later on. I think she's a really, really good mare.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, we can go right on to race 4 then. So let me make sure I've got the right one up there. Yep. Race 4 is a 3-year-old and up maiden hurdle. So again, 2 miles and 1 furlong. This is another stacked race of 10 horses. Steve, what's your intel?
Yeah, this is my favorite race of the day because I love seeing these good flat horses try jumps for the first time, and we've got some really good ones in there. I spoke to Tom Garner about Stolen Shoes. He's still learning, but he thinks if he handles the ground, he's going to be tough, and he's a 10-1 shot, so he's $1,000 purchase. Obviously, Parker's on Jimmy P, which we talked about. I'd love Jimmy P to win because I'd love Madaket to get their first winner over jumps. So I'm a little biased there. And then I talked to Barry Foley. This horse, Flying Scotsman, he ran in the Grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile in Keeneland in April of 21. So he is a classy sort. He's ran it in the Yielding Turf. He's won at the Yielding Turf at the fairgrounds. And Barry says he's obviously great flat horse. And if he takes the jump in, this field had better watch out because he could be the real deal. And then just wanted to note, there's a horse in this race, the 5 horse called Beat Le Bon. and he was decent in the flat, and they ran him in a point-to-point, which Keri can explain a little further, but it's sort of an unofficial sort of jump race. He won by 1/4 of a mile, which I've never heard of a horse winning by 1/4 of a mile. But that was how far. I think he said he was a fence ahead of everyone else, Keri?
He was, which was very impressive, but the rest of us weren't trying, and neither was poor Connor, but like he didn't have a choice. This horse was gone. And the jumping was a little sketchy, and he got around, but we haven't seen him over jump since then, and that was April, I want to say. So, I would imagine they've been working with him. If this was firm ground, I would say you won't catch him from what I saw at that point to point. But I think the soft ground is going to change things a lot. He was very impressive that day. But as I said, one of my maidens, Mockenbank and Pool Rank, were second and third. So Pool Rank's in the maiden claimer. The point-to-point form, you can't necessarily take that for anything. But he has ability, that's for sure. And if he just keeps going, no one's going to be fast enough to go, but obviously the ground will change it. I'm with Steve. I think if Flying Scotsman, I think if he takes to jumping, that is a serious horse, and he will take a lot of beating, I think.
Craig's shaking in agreement. So what do we got over here, Craig?
I am, and there's really very little I can add to number 5, Beat Le Bon, that Keri hasn't already covered. I was going to mention the point-to-point race. It's interesting to note back in 2021, this horse ran in the Royal Hunt Cup at Royal Ascot and finished 5th. But as Keri said, if we were on standard good or firm ground, Beat Le Bon should beat this field by a mile. But Foxfield is a fairly tight, undulating track. It's going to rain like there's no tomorrow. It's a wide open race. It really is. I like the number 9, Jimmy P from Keri's barn with Parker Hendricks on board. This horse who was 4th last time out at Colonial was, not beaten a mile on that occasion. And the number 10, Flying Scotsman, as Stephen said, this horse has some real form in its past, but hasn't been seen out since January. And it'll be very interesting in this completely new environment to see how Flying Scotsman does. But Neil Morris as a trainer is someone who not only do I like as a person, but I think he's an underrated trainer. And I don't see him bringing this horse out to Foxfield without having a real opportunity of thriving. And we've known for some time the weather was going to be bad this week. I mean, we've known it at least for the last 7 or 8 days. And it was interesting to hear Stephen say he spoke to Barry. So I'm going to say 5, 9, 10, but really any of those 3 could win this race. And a lot could happen in this race with some of the younger horses in the race. It would be interesting to see what the pace tactics are, because if Beat Le Bon does go out on the front end early, the others are not going to go with him. And we could end up in a situation where there's a lot of crowding in the early stages. And if 1 or 2 horses take a tumble, then suddenly you could have 50 or 60 lengths between first and last if Beat Le Bon really gets its skates on.
Okay. Well, this one also seems exciting. I think all these races are exciting. The next one is a little more flat-esque, only because it's the shortest field on the day for Foxfield. So let me bring up that card. So we have 6 horses in this race here. So race 5 at Foxfield is for 4-year-olds and up hurdle. So it says amateur and apprentice riders. Keri, do you want to speak to what exactly amateur and apprentice riders means? For you all.
These riders are all riders that still have their bug. So they haven't won more than 10 races in their career. My rider, he might be the only one in there that has actually never won a sanctioned race, I believe. So he gets an extra 5 pounds here. But they're all, they're relatively inexperienced riders per se. This race is for horses, I believe, rated 120 and down, and for apprentice riders. So it's a nice way, we're trying to, grow the sport and help riders get opportunities and whatnot. So this is a good group of apprentice riders here. And, they're all apprentice riders. And so it's not like it's anybody's, at a disadvantage or an advantage. They're all apprentice riders. Some are a little bit more experienced than others, but these are all good horses. So, good jumpers and whatnot. So it should be a good race.
So something to note, if you are new to the Stable Duel app, one of the strategies here is picking horses in a shorter field because you're more likely to pick, within the top 5. So there will be many players within the Stable Duel app that potentially double up, maybe even triple up with selections in this race compared to other races because they'll look at it as their chances to gain positive points for finishes 1st through 5th are much higher than picking a couple horses or one horse in a 10-horse race. But it looks like you're going to pay to play in this race because you've got a 9,400, an 8,000, a 7,000, and a 5,000. So you can use up your salary pretty quick if you're tripling up in this race compared to potentially finding some of those value picks in the other races. So what are we thinking in this one, Steve? Do you want to start out with some
Sure.
high opinions?
Yeah, I don't have much from the jockeys in this one. Obviously, I talked to Parker in regards to LJ, but we've covered LJ. I think LJ at $1,000 is a steal. This horse won in bottomless ground, which is probably what he's going to get on Sunday. And I look at the $3,000 horse in this, Hurtgen Forest. He was impressive and went to Saratoga, which is obviously a major step up. Didn't run well at Saratoga, took off, didn't jump very well at Saratoga. So he's back to a hunt meet. So again, I think the $3,000 and the $1,000 are super value. It's a 7-runner race, but it's wide open. I could see any horse winning this. So I wouldn't go down too much on $9,400 horses, even though my buddy owns it. He'll kill me for saying that. Poor Patrick. Sorry, Patrick.
Sorry, Patrick.
Craig, what do you think?
Well, I do like number 6, LJ, for the reasons we've already said. That being said, I am going to look elsewhere here. But number 2, Sompra Medici, who won at Foxfield in the spring, now 12 years old, had a nice pipe opener last week at Sharwin Downs. Finished 5th, although well beaten on that occasion. The horse was allowed to take its time, it seems. The horse likes Foxfield. I always like to see older horses do well. That's one of the beauties of steeplechasing is horses can be competitive at 10, 11, 12, even 13 years of age. And Alex Leventhal on board, who's a stylish young jockey. But number 3, West Newton with Teddy Davies on board. This horse a winner at Pimlico on the turf last time out. I was reminded today that this horse is bred by Her Majesty the Queen, and of course won the day following her departure from this mortal coil. And the number 1, Sharka, Mel Boucher, will be my 3rd pick here. A good second at Percy Warner in a $25,000 handicap back in May, coming off a little bit of a layoff. But I do agree with Steve. This is a race that could go in many different directions.
I love the facts about West Newton. So we're gonna have to put that out on Twitter for anybody that missed the live stream. And this will be available for replay on YouTube as well. And it sounds like you won't want to miss it with all this information. And let me see. We've got to get the last card up here. So we've got one more race. So again, you have 6 races on Sunday at Foxfield to pick your 10 horses within the $50,000 bankroll. So you will be doubling up in all but one race, absolutely. So we'll see what your strategies are. And then this race right here has, again, a stacked field. 10 horses and then 3 or 4 AEs? Of course, I can't see.
12 and 1.
Yeah.
12 and 1.
There is a scratch in here. The 7 is scratched.
The
My
7 is
AE draws in.
The 7 is scratched. Okay, I will note and we'll make sure that that's updated in the Stable Duel app. So Lear Avia, how do you say that one?
Yeah, Lear Avia.
I only know that because I was on the AE and I got called to tell me my horse got in. So
Ah.
I don't get all the info.
So no worries. So race 6 is for 4-year-olds and up. It is a handicap hurdles 110 or lower. Keri, explain that. What does that mean?
So a rating system is basically just a way of kind of grouping the level of horses. So like the lowest rated horse in America right now, I think is a 98. And so these are kind of the lower end, you'd say. I mean, these are probably really like the non-2, non-3 for 20 or 15 on the flat per se. But rather than it being a claiming race, we've grouped it together in this rating. So depending on the rating, the top weight carries the 110 rated horses carry 158, and then you just go down from there. Whatever they're rated, their rating, their weight corresponds with their rating basically. So it's a pretty evenly matched field, I would say. Good race. It should be a good race.
Okay. Steve, what do you think in this one?
Yeah, so I spoke to my man, Jamie Bargery, the hottest jockey on the planet at the moment. He's on board. He is on board Bella Cooler. And she actually won. She won her maiden at Foxfield last year. Loves the track. The horse is fit, ready to go. In Jamie's words, she's ready to rock. Okay, and the soft ground won't bother her. So $3,000 on an 8-to-1 shot. So the red hot Jamie Bargery likes her. And then the one I like is Tom Garner on Salamanca School. A lot of these other horses have kind of been exposed. Salamanca School has been exposed, but he's been exposed in the UK. He's won on heavy going, so the ground is not a problem. He's working great. Tom describes him as a big, fine horse. So it is $8,000, but I think Tom's got a sneaking feeling that he's sitting on the winner here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Craig,
And then
where are you at with this one? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, new appointment Drew in, which is Keri's horse. Ran 2 great races. Didn't run so well last time out in the Rouse, Keri. Maybe you can explain a little more.
She had a hard summer. She carried 15 pounds more than everyone else.
That's right.
Subject. We won't go there. No, but my pick is He'll Do in this. If you go back and look at his form, he did have an injury last year, has had time off, just ran at Shawan. We didn't try just for fitness. He's run against way better horses than anything in this field. He's beaten Decisive Triumph, who has gone on to be a novice stakes horse. He has beaten Animal Kingston, who is a 120 rated horse. This horse was used last year to give Parker experience. And Parker can tell you that there were a few times he probably didn't give him the greatest rides, probably a little apprentice type riding a few spots. He's won, I believe, at Foxfield. He's run well at Foxfield. He won't mind soft ground. I think he's by far the class of this race. If he runs and jumps and the trainer has him fit enough, I don't see him getting beat.
Okay. I love the confidence. Craig, are you that confident in yours?
That's my pick of the day. That horse is my pick of the day.
Okay, He'll Do $7,000.
Well, I think
Craig,
I think the thing that sticks out to me here, and Stephen may be able to just say a word about this as well, is look at the weight spread in this race. The top weight, number 2, Bold Quest, is carrying 154 pounds. And the bottom weight, the number 10, Eves City, with Jack Gilligan on board, when you count his 5-pound allowance, is carrying 134 pounds. So that's a difference there of 20 pounds right there. I think it's so important for the future of jumps racing in the USA that, these kind of races, I work with horse players every day in my job at Turf Paradise, and we have a large OTB network here in Arizona. So part of my job is to speak to horse players. They want to bet these kind of races. They want to get involved in the action a lot more. And it's great. We're all doing our best to promote this on Stable Duel this week. But this is the kind of race that I think horse players across America have a hunger to get involved with, away from the constant diet of flat racing. And in this race, we've already spoken about the number 3, Bella Cooler, and the number 4, He'll Do. They're my top 2 picks. I'll throw in the number 8, Criticize, at 10-1 on the morning line. I think it's a bargain at $1,000 off the back of a 3rd place finish at Colonial last time out. Although a well-beaten third. The winner of that race has gone on to win since to help justify the form. Gerard Gallagher always gives good value on any of his horses, so I'm going to go 3, 4, 8. But this is a fun race to handicap. There's lots of different angles you can play here.
It seems like this is going to be a stacked day, and of course a stacked contest in the Stable Duel app. It'll be interesting. We actually, hang on here, I can look. We had, I think, 180 entries already, and we're almost up to 200 entries currently in the contest that has a $2,500 prize pool. So I'll put this up for anybody that has not seen. Maybe I will. There we go. $2,500 in prizes and free to play. This is on Sunday, but it is in the app currently. So you can go there and start building your stable. It is 1 entry per person. So you have 1 chance to cash. But something to note, you can watch these races. They are being live streamed. Thanks to the NSA, which is the National Steeplechase Association. I'm going to put the link up here. There is a fee to stream, which I'm sure everyone on here can agree. And we're going to try really hard maybe next year to figure out how we can find a way to make this free so everybody can watch these races and enjoy them. But this year, we are doing this contest for free, so you can play and take part in steeplechase racing and become a fan. So show your support by the $12, if you will. Throw a steeplechase party at your house on Sunday, and just pay to watch the live stream. We'll appreciate it. They'll appreciate it. But let me find the link up here, and I'll put it in the chat for anybody that's still there. Here we go. And we'll put it out on Twitter, but please follow each one of these individuals on Twitter. Keri, what's your Twitter handle?
Keri145.
Keri145. I'll put this up. 45. All right. So follow Keri. She puts up great content, videos of the horses. She did a takeover on the Stable Duel Instagram, which please go check out. We're going to make it a highlight as well. One of the coolest things that I saw kind of compared to some of the training here on the flat side is you let your horses out every day for 45 minutes to an hour before they even train. Is that right?
Yeah, they all get to be horses.
That's
and
awesome.
That's for my flat horses as well. They all get to get turned out, have a buck, a roll, a kick, a play. Some of them go out in paddocks together. Like my new cross border that everybody follows, he gets turned out with Theocrat now every morning, who won a novice stake at Saratoga. So it's really cool. Jonathan swore by it, and I used to watch him turn out Informed Decision forever together in a field. I mean, probably a $12 million field, and I always thought he was nuts, but it definitely works like that. Horses, happy horses run faster. So yeah, they all get turned out before we ride them. So I like to think my horses all have a pretty darn good life.
They look like it. So yes, so check out the Instagram takeover on Stable Duel. I'll make that a highlight. Follow Keri on Twitter. And I'm putting up Steve's website right here, usasteeplechase.com. Correct, Steve?
That's correct. And we'll get those results up instantly come in. So if you want to find out the result instantly, just go check to that Twitter page.
Perfect.
Find the results and jump
then,
rates. Not easy.
Yeah. Yes. And we'll have them in the Stable Duel app as well. A little bit different compared to kind of the totes that you're used to with your traditional ADW. But they will be in Stable Duel on Sunday as well. So you can follow race by race and see where you move up on the leaderboard and see if you cash the 2,500. And then we'll go down to Craig. Craig, your Twitter handle, I pretty much know by heart now that I figured it out. It's just @CallsTheRaces. Isn't that right?
It is. Yeah.
And so Craig is a race caller all over the United States, but he most importantly will be the race caller at Foxfield on Sunday. So you will hear his voice on the live stream. And if you're there, which would be great, with your, galoshes and whatever you need to protect yourself from the rain, tweet us and send some videos and pictures. But guys, that's it for me. Do you have anything else you want to add to anyone who's still here or anyone who's watching Steeplechase for the first time? Steve?
I'm all over heel do in the last race for Keri. That seems to be the pick of the day. I've already just added it to my stable do as she was speaking.
There you go. Keri, what about you?
No, I thank you for doing this. I think this is great that Stable Duel's getting involved, and I hope maybe we get a couple new fans this weekend. That's what it's all about, promoting the sport and growing. So maybe even a couple new owners. You know where to find me.
Absolutely. Saul from Matacat actually has played Stable Duel, so we'll see if he's playing. I think I can't remember what a stable is, but he might be playing on this one as well. And then Craig, what about you? Anything to add?
Come out and enjoy the day if you can, even though it's going to be wet, as we say in England. Well, I mean, I'm from Newmarket, so maybe we don't say it there, but up north where Steve is from, they probably say something like, if it's not raining, it's not jumps racing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Catterick or Bangor-on-Dee or such Hexham or such Carlisle. Carlisle's very beautiful. Yeah, Hexham's a beautiful place. Yeah, but no, come out. I'll be on Twitter all day in the announcers booth, and if anyone has any questions, just tweet me during the day, and I'll be happy to answer them as we go through the day.
I'll put your Twitter handle up there. So there you go. You can follow Craig on Twitter at Calls the Races. And yeah, so that's it. Sunday, October 2nd, coming up. $2,500 in prizes, free to play. Hopefully our next event could be Far Hills in New Jersey, crossing our fingers. But thanks, guys, for tuning in. And thank you to all of our hosts as well. And good luck this weekend.